Hello everybody, my name is Micah McCaw and I released an album 2 weeks ago called A Beautiful Divorce, and it's about how the American church needs to divorce their patriotism from their faith and put the teachings of Christ above their love of a political party. I asked if you had any questions on the album and I got quite a few responses. I also played a couple of shows this last weekend and got some good questions out there. Toward the end of the video, there's a couple of fun music theory-esque things that I'd love to talk about for those of you that are interested. So we'll go there. So here's some questions here. Influences on the album. Number one with a bullet is the time period in which I'm living in. Number two is probably Radiohead. The Deer Hunter as well. Also, I'll get into it a little further later, but there's a specific movie that came out that was an influence and inspired one of the songs completely. Switchfoot's always a big influence on me, so I think that's always inbred into what I write, but I think the Radiohead kind of composition and, you know, their political themes and stuff, I think a lot of that is in there. I was already asked what I have next coming. And for those who know me or are now familiar with my work, I typically have, you know, another album in the barrel, or I just have a concept that I'm already working on. This to me feels pretty complete. It feels like I've caught up to myself as a songwriter. So I don't have anything planned yet. But I do have some goals for next year, but what I'm excited about is none of them, they're all goals that involve musicianship. So, I would like to get a firm grasp on Kanakul, which is an Indian rhythmic syllabic singing. I want to be able to have a firm grasp on the piano as well and be able to competently play, not anything like Bach or anything crazy like that, but a decent piano playing would be great. I also want to get my ears a lot better, so I'd like to get to a point where you know, I can recognize chords by hearing them easier and maybe work on my relative pitch. So those are kind of what I have. As far as songwriting goals, I don't have anything yet. Till Life Turns Over, Imbalances, and A Beautiful Divorce. Those are my 3 albums, and of course there's other releases in between those. But it does kind of feel like you can see the jump from one to the next, and you can include Threads and The First Family as well, those EPs in there. But it feels kind of complete, like that's the first part of the career. You know, what's next? I mean, I think that's why I'm excited about working on piano, an instrument that I am not good at playing, and then studying a type of music, Indian music, that you know, we don't even hear really in the US. So maybe next year is kind of the reset. Of course, on patreon.com/Micah McCaw, I'll still be releasing songs and ideas, and there's bootlegs from the shows, and you should definitely sign up because we're really trying to get to 50 patrons by the end of the year. But, you know, that's where I'm at on that. I was asked about demoing the album. So this was kind of like the process of making it. So when I was working on this album, I wrote all the songs, and then I recorded all of them on Logic, and then I used their drum, their like software drum to get like basic ideas of where I wanted the drums to go. And then I also used, I just went through and I wrote all the parts and took it as far as I could take it, so that when we went to the studio with Jeremy Oliveira, it was like we knew what we were recording. Now, there was still a lot that changed in the studio, and I cannot speak enough to how Evan Coons, the drummer, and Grayson Phelps, the bass player, changed this album in all the right ways. Because I basically was like, here are the parts that I hear, and then they were able to turn them into a real bass part and a real drum part. In particular, Evan I want to point out on Millions, Billions, Trillions, Zillions, that song would not feel as natural as it does without the groove he made. Because the song's in 17/4, and I think most people without that knowledge would not guess that it's in an odd signature because of his drum beat. So they're like ultimately so important to the album. And then of course Jeremy producing and playing some piano on the album and synth and all that stuff. Yeah. When are you going to have lyrics on Spotify? I have been in the process of adding them. It's been sort of weirdly complicated, but they're getting there. I know for sure one is on, but hopefully by the time this video comes out, all of them will be. Someone asked me at the show, do you think that people who really need to hear this album will? Will Christians who are Christian nationalists, those that think that America is the chosen country and should be a Christian nation, will they hear the album? I don't know. I really don't know. I really hope that they do, and I hope that it could at least stir something inside of them, because it's so unbiblical, that ideology. I mean, literally, when Jesus came, the disciples were saying, hey, this is awesome. You're going to overthrow the Roman government and make it a Jewish nation. And he's like, no, I have a bigger plan than that. I mean, that's kind of, people are still looking at him like he's going to, put someone in office that's going to fix everything. And it's just not practical, and it's not the message of the gospel. If you believe it, don't think like that. Read the gospel, read Jesus' teachings, because it's not American. What does divorcing patriotism mean? So yeah, that goes hand in hand with the previous question. To what I understand about Christ's teachings in the Bible, that means putting love of people and love of Christ above the love of the country. So I think about the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, when it really hit its zenith after the tragic murder of George Floyd, and I think to myself, I saw Christians who I knew who were not in support of that movement. And that to me is shocking, because Christians we should be at the forefront of trying to help make things equal and help people who are being murdered because of the color of their skin. So if people are put first, and if because a lot of Christians are always talking about rights, and I don't think that is what the Bible teaches is our rights. I mean, Christianity thrives in nations where it's not even allowed. So would it be so bad if we lost that privilege politically? I tend to think no. Is there a consensus from listeners yet on best song on the album? Kind of. I personally think BNF is the best song that I've written, and I have heard several people, they like that one the most. I think Stolen has really been playing well, and I'm getting a lot of people who are saying that that's their favorite. What I'm really surprised about is Dark Waters seems to also be a favorite amongst people, which that song's kind of weird, so that's pretty cool. The lesson I'm learning is I can be weirder, I guess, because Dark Waters people have really enjoyed. I do think people, I haven't heard any bad feedback. What's the speech playing in the back of words? Unless we cut one of them, and I can't remember, all of the people talking are the past, I think, 4 presidents, and their inauguration is playing. So kind of, I like to leave things up to interpretation, but kind of the idea is that with the change of a president, a lot of times they kind of say the same thing, and it doesn't really mean anything until they either do or don't put forth any action. So you got Biden's inauguration in there, Trump's, Obama's, and Bush. I think I had Clinton at one point, but it was starting to sound like too cacophonous. So it used to, though, on the demos, it's really loud. But Jeremy reined it in, and it's the right move, but I could still hear a version where they're crazier. Yeah. So remind me again what that exact key change is at the end of Ghost. Okay, this is a fun one. Ghost is in E. So it's just E major, and one of the fun things about the song is I really wanted to try to write an instrumental that is just one chord, so all those instrumentals are just one chord. Just hanging on the E. But then it goes into this. So that, we have the F sharp minor, which is in E, or the A, but then we have the C. So we got, but I think that would be melodic minor because you're going, and then, yeah, melodic minor. I think that's melodic minor, right? You go up in the major scale, then you come back down in the minor scale. Pretty sure that's melodic minor. I haven't dusted off that chapter of any of my European 18th century music theory books. So continuing on with Ghost, I was asked, what is Ghost in My House about? And yes, I think all the others are fairly obvious in their message, but Ghost in My House is kind of about being haunted by the either political ideology that you used to believe in, or, I mean, I think it could extend beyond that. For me, it is the idea that I used to think a lot of things that were more in the Christian nationalism mentality, putting rights and the love of country above Christ. I never truly thought that, but there was a lot of things, and some of the stuff I was taught in school, I went to a Christian school, and some of it when I look back, I go, hey, you know, why are we teaching that this is a Christian nation when the founding fathers, a lot of them were deists, for example, you know, things of that nature. So that song is about being haunted by your past in that way. As a church man, did you have a lot of contradicting thoughts about writing the album? No, I did not. I did talk a lot with Jeremy, the producer, Jeremy Oliveira, making sure that I didn't want this album to just be me ruffling feathers just for controversy's sake. I wanted it to be sound theologically. But no, I didn't feel contradiction toward it. Oh, and another thing that I want to mention is there's this great book, Reading While Black, by Esau McCaulley, that is about African American biblical interpretation, which is a lot of Stolen and Ghost in My House are kind of about this. Would recommend. Yeah, and then Jeremy asked, what's it like working with the genius Jeremy Oliveira? So it's great. It's always fun, and you should if you're wondering, have him produce your album. Stereo Creature, he's the best. All right, so now for the music theory heads, I'm just gonna go through some of the fun stuff on the album. So the first song, Be Enough, is in D minor. The verses are. And then it transitions into a D major. I'm basically maintaining the, and I don't know how I did this. It's kind of cool, but I am playing a major D chord, but I'm staying in the minor D scale because. So I guess that's another kind of melodic minor thing, because yeah, I'm literally playing D major, but that's why I have to change the chord, so it goes from this to. But the bass line is. So yeah, that song's in kind of a D minor, D major So Not You is kind of an interesting song because I wrote that, and to me it was about this idea that people that I loved, friends and family, were basically acting out in hate during political things, whatever they were over the past couple of years. People were acting out in hate and not love first, and there were people who, some of them even taught me to love first. And so the idea was, that's not you. That's not the person I grew up with or the person who taught me these things. How come you're acting out in so much hate? So that's what that is about. But then I showed it to my wife Jordan, and she was like, "Oh, is this song about like the internet, like posting on social media, the spread of misinformation, just saying terrible things about people on the internet?" And I was kind of like, I think your reading is kind of better than my reading, and that's cool. I already talked about Ghost in My House, Tax Me. I recorded that on an iPhone in this very home that I live in my bedroom, and it was always going to be that. I never wanted to make it sound well recorded. And there's something about the iPhone demos that sound really, really nice to me. They're like pleasing to my ears. I've heard it has something to do with like the compression or something. Yeah, love it. And also at the last song, A Beautiful Divorce, we put 2 iPhones in a room, and then we did put up extra mics, and I recorded all of my part, which is the acoustic guitar and the vocals, in one take. I mean, I played it like 3 or 4 times, and I think we chose the second take, because that was the best take. And so there are some other mics in there, but we're keeping that iPhone demo vibe. And then we went in and tracked, drums, bass, and then extra electric guitars. But in that recording, Grayson and Evan did play the drums and bass in the same room that we did that, where we recorded the demo on the same day. And that's the Eden Ballroom. Let's see, Stolen was the hardest song to crack. That's a term we use when we're recording, where it's like, you have this song, it's a good song, but there's usually a moment where you add an instrument or a part, or you get rid of something sometimes in your recording, and you're like, oh my gosh, now it sounds like a song we can release. And Stolen was really tough. We tried adding a bunch of stuff, then we tried getting rid of stuff. And then I remember kind of, even when we were done, feeling a little insecure about that song, and like feeling like maybe we didn't quite crack it. But I think it really works. It's like a less is more kind of situation where it just feels good. And especially playing it live, when I played it with my band, it was awesome. And then when I've done these shows where I'm just by myself, it hits really hard. So I think, having the verses breathe really works, and that one was really a tough song to crack, but it worked out, and it's a lot of people's favorite song on the album, so I'm pretty happy with it. As the Deer Panteth for the Water that one was kind of hard to crack as well, but it was already fairly fleshed out, with all the demoing I did. But the fun story on that is, I believe it was Evan pointed out that it has a vibe kind of like Jars of Clay's Flood, I think is what it's called. If I could walk on 40 days. And then Jeremy thought, that's cool, and he did mix the vocals intentionally with that thought in his mind. And I think it works. And the song's pretty different. It's just a cool inspirational. Dark Waters there is a movie starring Mark Ruffalo and Anne Hathaway, and it's called Dark Waters. I found it to be a terrifying movie because it was about the DuPont company, who was basically putting I might be getting this wrong, but I believe that they had like a compound that they'd created to help with nonstick pans and certain types of carpeting and other things. That's why I mentioned Now the Pans Don't Stick in the song. It was like this new kind of elemental compound, and it created just an insane amount of cancer. And basically, when you're watching the movie, and if you do any research about it, it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag, and they kind of screwed the world. And it's crazy that it is still a company in existence. But the movie's about this lawyer who is fighting for people to have settlements and to get paid who are like getting horrible cancer and stuff like that. And it's a terrifying movie because as the movie goes on, it'll jump ahead like a decade. And I kept waiting for it to be like, but in 2001, it's all taken care of. And now, this compound, I forget what it's called, is like not in existence anymore. But now it's like, it's basically unavoidable. So it's quite depressing. But it's a really good movie, and it didn't get a lot of attention when it came out, but I highly encourage you to watch it. You get a better idea of the story. Talked about words a little bit. I did talk about A Beautiful Divorce as well, but I do want to talk about Millions, Billions, Trillions, Zillions. The song is in 17/4, and so for those of you who are wondering, I like to count that like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I play it live at the end, when I do the and I wonder what you were gonna do, I like to keep it in the time signature. So in order to learn that, I put 5 quarters on the ground, and I would use my foot to tap. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd go. And I wonder what you were gonna do with all your millions. So 5, 4, 4, 4. So that's how I count the ending when I'm playing it live, and I do actually tap my foot across the floor, which is goofy, but I have to do it if I want to keep the integrity of the time signature. That is that song. It was cool. I reached out to a friend about recording. I just knew when I wrote it that I wasn't supposed to sing the bridge. I don't know why, and I've never felt that before, so I just knew I had to figure it out. I asked one of my friends if he could do it, and with timing and stuff, it just didn't work out. So I was driving home from a trip, and I reached into the glove box, and I grabbed a CD that I'd gotten at a show from this guy named Michael Blake, who had played music before me and at the White Eagle in Portland, and it was really beautiful stuff, but I'd never listened to the music, and this was years later. And I put it in my CD player, and within the first verse, I was like, this is the singer, for sure. And I emailed him, and he said, yeah, I'll do it, of course. And I explained that the album is kind of about how, when the ultra-rich, or the song is about when the ultra-rich get so rich that nothing means anything. Having $1 trillion doesn't even compute, or $1 billion. I mean, it becomes pedantic and pointless. And what kind of life is that truly? And he was like, yeah, I'm all up for that message. So it worked out, and he did it, and he absolutely killed it and added those harmonies. There were no harmonies in the bridge, so he added all of that. So listen to Blake. The artist name is Blake, and it's linked on like Spotify and stuff. So if you listen to Millions, you can click on his name. He's got beautiful music. All right, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for asking all these great questions, and thanks for listening to the album. Sign up for Patreon. You got to do it. You just have to. It's the best. You got exclusive everything over there. Podcasts, music. You can get the album for $5 over there. So do it. And also there's some t-shirts on sale, so those are going to play now. T-shirts and posters, which you can order. See ya.